Hey, welcome back to Raising Justice Mother Daughter Talks. Thank you for coming back to episode number 2, where we are discussing money matters this week, right? If you joined us last time, you know we talked about everything relationships. And again, this is not a prepared type conversation. We kind of got a couple questions for each other, and we're just throwing it out there to get some natural reactions. And today, our focus is going to be on everything money. So, jumping right in, Justice, I want to kick it off by sharing with everyone a couple of things that we've done with our family as it relates to how we handle money. So, first things first, what do you remember about your first kind of introduction into money and finance and banking and all of that stuff?
Yeah, so when I turned 13, I got my first checkings account, got my first debit card, and that's kind of been like a tradition that's been throughout all the children. So when you turn 13, you get your ID, you get your credit or your debit card, and then you start being like an authorized user on a credit card. But for me, the biggest memory was getting a debit card. That was like, oh, I'm a big girl now. Like I have credit or I have debit, I have a card to use. Like that was like beyond cool to me. So definitely at 13, that was like a core memory, just being able to have like my own card. That was mine.
Yeah. And Dion and I really wanted to do that because we wanted to introduce our kids to handling money early. And so, like she said, ID, bank card, credit card is a rites of passage or access to a credit card so that they can start learning about how to leverage credit at 13 is kind of how we kick it off, right? And now we have Cash App and things like that. So you guys got linked Cash App accounts and things like that. And we start to kind of leverage how to properly, I guess, use money and spend money.
So what about you? What was your childhood like growing up with money? How did your grandma teach you how to use money? What was that like growing up?
All right, so we handled cash a lot more back then.
I know.
Yeah. So I don't think I got a real bank account until I was probably in my senior year of high school. And I had worked a few jobs, and you would go to a check cashing place to kind of cash your check. Direct deposit wasn't as popular, right. Or just having a bank account. So I was 17, 18 when I remember getting my first account. And then when I got in college is really when I got a real introduction to using money and really paying bills per se. So I was already kind of an adult, whereas you guys have, Spotify accounts and different type of little things.
That's my first purchase.
Yeah, you get a feel for how to pay a reoccurring bill. Okay, so when you got to with your senior year in college, I kind of dipped your toe into, okay, let's change how we're doing the bills. You have been, you've been able to live, tuition paid for, all of those things taken care of. Most of your major bills are paid for, but I was making a big transition in my life that was, going to have a financial effect on the family. And so one of the things we changed was kind of how you contributed to your college experience. So what was it like to start paying your own rent?
Good question. I mean, honestly, like I felt very old. Like I felt like, okay, now my life is beginning. I'm now an adult. I'm really out on my own. Like I already kind of felt that, like living in Tallahassee by myself, but that kind of solidified it. Every first of the month, I was paying God knows how much that housing complex. And, it really taught me life gets real very quickly. And that's okay. Like that happens. And that's just being an adult. So for me, it just added on to the Spotify account that I had, a couple other things that I paid for, but it really made things more realistic because this is what life's going to be like after I leave, the house of my parents. So I thought it was a good opening start to living by myself, paying for my own bills. I was not the happiest, of course, because there's so much money coming out of my account, but it's fine. It's okay. I didn't feel that big of an issue with it because at the end of the day, my parents were helping me so much prior to, so I felt like it was only right for me to start taking the initiative there. So yeah.
Awesome. And so what did it feel like to work and go to school? Because one of the things, and I'll share this with, our viewers, is I've always wanted to give you what I didn't have, but I also want to give you a little bit of what I did have. because I think that it built character and it really shaped who I became. So throughout high school and college, I always worked and went to school and balanced both.
Yeah.
And so I didn't necessarily require that out of you, but I encouraged you to learn early how to balance both. So what did it feel like to work and go to school?
Yeah, so that was definitely a little bit on the tougher side of things. But I think honestly, I'm a very busy bee type of person. Like if you know me, I'm very like everywhere but where I need to be. So for me, like working a job and going to school just kept me busy, and that was okay with me. And honestly, I liked from a young age, I liked having my own money. Like I didn't want to have to depend on my parents for everything that I wanted. Like there was a certain point where I wanted to get bags, I wanted to get shoes, I wanted to be able to like decorate my room how I wanted to decorate it. So that wouldn't be possible without me like working towards that. And I think I learned that very early, like working towards something. And that just kind of built my attitude, like you said. Like I feel like I definitely inherited that. And like I always work for what I want or want to achieve. So
okay, I like that. So I'm gonna kick it off with a deeper question. What is the most valuable lesson you learned about managing money?
Yeah, so I feel like I don't know, like there's so much life that I haven't lived yet, but I feel like from what I have learned, I feel like, you know, you have to be really careful with how you utilize your money. You have to be very careful with how you choose to spend it. I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, that's probably like one of the things that I would constantly learn. Like if I didn't spend my money correctly, where was the rent going to come in? Like that, that's like where things get real really quickly. So you have to figure out like how to spend your money. That's like probably the biggest lesson that you learn, especially as like somebody my age, like how to use your money correctly, because it just doesn't happen sometimes. So yeah.
I'm happy that you, this is good that you learned that lesson, because that is by intent. You know, like one of the things I really want to do for all of you guys is create safe spaces for you guys to learn. So meaning I want you to kind of feel it, but then I don't want you to have like the long-term consequences of it.
Right.
Like I don't want you to, like I've experienced being on the cusp of eviction because I didn't properly pay my bills. I don't ever want it to get to that degree with you. However, I want you to get the lesson out of it. So allowing you to kind of feel it a little bit that, hey, I got to manage this.
Yeah.
I think it's healthy. All right. So how do you balance enjoying your money and planning for your future? So how do you enjoy like spending versus savings? What's your approach?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I'm not a big spender, but I do enjoy my life. I like to say I only live once. So I live my life. And I think there's like a good way to balance, because I think I work very, very hard. So that's why I play very hard, but that's the key. You have to work very, very hard to play very hard. So I think there has to be like a sense of, okay, you work, you save, you build, and then, you know, you have a little fun here and there, but you work to like save for the future. I mean, I work jobs where like I make sure that the 401k is coming in the future, and like I work to think about what's happening in the future. But of course, I live in the now, and I try to spend moderately. I think living in moderation is the key to, at least that's what I've learned. Living in moderation is the key. So yeah. What about you?
All right. So work hard, play hard. Definitely. I may play too hard. I'm not gonna lie.
Me too.
I am a hard worker, very, very hard worker. But when it comes to spending money, I often stay within my means. But if your girl wants it, like, and I really, really want it, if it stay on my mind too long, I'm gonna have it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna have it. I've been a really good saver over the years, though. When I think about the transition that I am now, and now where I've left corporate America, I don't have a full-time job. I don't get a direct deposit every 2 weeks. I am self-employed, and I'm out here earning or legitimately going after every dime that comes into my pocket. Is different. I thank God for my ability and how I've stewarded my money in the past and how I've saved in the past, because it's allowed me to maintain my lifestyle in this season of transition, and in this season of now growing my own business.
Right.
So had I not had the savings habits that I had before, probably would be a lot tougher right now for me to pursue this dream. So definitely have to have balance.
Yeah.
All right. So I want you to talk a little bit about, let's talk broader in terms of money matters for women in general. What are your thoughts on financial independence for women? Do you
Yeah.
think it's important? Is it a big deal? Do we marry for safety security? Do we secure our own bag?
Yeah.
I'm really interested to hear kind of a Gen Z take on that. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think honestly speaking, a lot of the time, it's really important for women, not even just women, people in general. It's extremely important for you to just save your money and also have financial education. I think not just women alone, everybody, but specifically talking about women, since I am a woman myself, I think that it's really important. A man is very special, and yes, he can help you financially, but I do think that it's more crucial that you know what and where your money is going. And I think it is very helpful as well for you to just earn your own money. Maybe that's just me. I like having my own money, and I do have a partner, and I hope in the future he'll take care of me. But in my current state, I like having my own money, so I think it is important for women who are alone or at least single for the time being, like take care of your own stuff. And if a man wants to take care of you, awesome. But I think a woman should be able to have that financial freedom, know what she's looking into, and also just be aware with where to put her money. So that's just my personal opinion.
Okay. I like that. I think I'm aligned with you. I think it's something about as we get older, as we experience the world differently, we kind of think about certain things differently. So I could admit that me 15 years ago probably had trust issues in terms of being cared for. So my approach was I'm going after the bag and I will make the bag. And as long as I have the bag, we're straight.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a mindset of partnership. So I like, being able to go after goals together and have shared vision. Like right now, as I'm transitioning into being self-employed and building my own business, I think having a partner that can step in and help and support is super important.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I think in some kind of way we have to be able to secure some level of financial independence for ourselves. I don't care if you don't have to work anywhere, but maybe it's an investment property that you have and you get reoccurring income from it. But women, I don't know. I'm a big fan of secure some type of bag that's coming in that contributes to your family. Not saying this has to be hidden or anything, but something that kind of comes in and supports the family. To each their own, whatever works. Because some families have it where one income does it.
Yeah, that sounds good
All
to
right.
me.
So, what else do you think is important as you think about finance?
I think honestly, because I was just talking about this before we got on, I think there does need to be a lot more conversation had about finance. I was kind of scared of speaking about money because I feel like I don't know a lot. And that may be the case for a lot of people my age. I feel like we definitely need to have these conversations a lot more when it comes to money, especially people my age. We're a lot more scared to have these conversations about money too. So I highly recommend that people, take the time to talk to people that are in maybe the finance industry, or just talk to your parents in general about like money, their opinions on money, how to deal with money. I just feel like that's so crucial and important because there's people like me who don't know too much and are still learning, and this is their first kind of go around with money. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's really important to learn about finance.
Okay, so then let me ask you, we're going to take it to more of a social component. What do you think about borrowing or loaning money to others? Do you have a criteria? Like, how does that work? Because, when you loan money to family or loan money to friends, like, what are the terms for you?
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. I don't have too much experience with it, but I genuinely do not do it without like me knowing the person really well. Like this is reserved only for my best friend, my boyfriend. Like this is reserved for top-notch people only, like my siblings. I don't know if I would trust like random people on the street, but that's just me. I think there's not really much criteria as long as you're like, hey, I need this money at this time, like I'll pay you back. That's totally fine. Like I know like me and my best friend, we oftentimes will like just pay for each other's things back and forth. There's not really much of like I need my money back. It's more of like okay, like I got this time, you got the next time. Like things like that allow for me to like feel more comfortable. And if there is a situation where it's like big money at play, like I'm booking a trip with my friend, she'll send me the money almost immediately. So I don't feel as bad like buying our tickets together because I know she'll send it back. So for me, there just has to be like an accountability thing and also like okay, I know that you'll pay me back or that I know that this is mutual. That's usually what's required for me.
No,
Yeah.
completely understand. The same here. I'm not very formal when it comes to loaning money. I give what I can.
Right.
If I get it back, yes,
Right.
I'm excited. If I don't give what I can't afford to lose.
Yeah.
But
That's
I
a
will
great
tell
thing.
you, if someone borrows money, especially a substantial amount, and they don't pay back, then that's the cost of doing business. That I think. So like now you don't get to come back and ask again because you already defaulted on the first loan.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think as it relates to money, that can be interesting. Do you think you would ever lose a friendship over money?
Ooh, it would have to be like really bad for me to feel. That's definitely a hard one. I think I could see myself. I don't want to say that I could see myself doing it, but I feel like depending on like the amount, like if I got full on scammed, maybe we're not going to be friends anymore because I don't like to play about like very serious things. Like if you like get my credit card somehow and you like run the whole thing up, okay, I might be a little upset.
Okay, that's that. Yeah, that was a different story. That was a different story.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you borrowed this money from me and you haven't paid it back like you said you would. How would you handle that situation? Like, do you feel like you would completely not talk to that person? Like, would them owing you cost the friendship?
I don't know. I think it depends on the friend, and it also depends on like how serious the amount is. Like if it's like $20 and it was like in like middle school, okay, I'm probably over it by now. But if it's like $500 and it was like the down payment on your house and you're still living in the house and you don't feel like you want to give me the money back, then okay, maybe it might like damage the relationship a little bit, but I probably won't be like, we're done. Like it depends on how bad and how like overt they are to the situation, like how like they don't care. Like it depends on how they're also going about it too. Like if they're living their life and they like are out on trips, they're doing this, and then my money's still not returned back to me. Why? Oh my gosh. I don't even, did you forget? I don't know. I think there's like levels to what we could do. I love all my friends, but don't be on a cruise and then also owe me $200. Like I know you put $200 down for that room. So that's all I gotta say. I think that's where things get a little.
Yeah, so I've been in a position quite a few times where someone has owed me money and they're out like living their lives. I don't typically take it personal because I don't know. I just don't. What I will say is money doesn't necessarily rule relationships with me.
That's fair.
And so I know how to sit the money conversation aside, and I almost take it as a noted, like it's duly noted that you will, take money from me, that or you will have money and not acknowledge that you owe me. And if that's the way that you conduct business, that's fine. For me, it's just that part of our friendship will now change. We won't talk about money anymore. We won't. I won't be loaning you money anymore. But that would be the part of the friendship that would adapt. But could I still be your friend? Yeah. Now, if you start, I don't know, acting crazy about it, then it may be something else.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think that I could navigate around it without ending the whole friendship. Again, depends on how much money it is, right?
Yeah, I think that's definitely also a thing.
All right. So I want to ask, how do you have financial conversations, or what would you recommend to someone on how to have financial conversations with maybe their friends or family or significant others? What's the best way to start a money conversation?
Yeah, I think honestly, just approaching it in the most natural fashion ever. Like you can talk about it how you talk about like TikTok drama or anything that you talk about in your life. Like just talk about it like a normal conversation. I think kind of like the weirdness that people have with having a money conversation kind of prevents it from going well. So
Yeah, that's
just
true.
being natural and being like, hey, like let's talk about, I don't know, say for example, like me and my friends, sometimes we talk about like pay that we want in the future, like the type of house that we want. And then that'll kind of like flow into like, okay, what does a mortgage look like? Okay, like what type of cards do you have? Like what type of credit cards are you getting right now? Like a lot of my friends, which is really surprising, like we're all talking about the type of credit cards that we want. Like some of us are like, we want Delta, we want like it's interesting, but it's like that's how you kind of start like a conversation. Like it's simple as like, oh my God, I just got approved for like an American Express card. Awesome. How did you get approved? Like things like that are just like an easy way to like segue and make it natural. I feel like that's like the key to having a good conversation about money is just making it seem like it's a normal conversation.
Yeah, I like that. Like, don't be all intense. Don't drag it. Make it seem like it's a bunch
of like I'm in debt. Like, oh, okay. Like
it's kind of heavy coming into, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can ease into that type of conversation in a different way. So you don't have to like make it like gloomy and like, oh my gosh, like what was me? It's fine. It's just money. Money is just a thing that's normal to us as humans. So I think it should just be approached with very natural, delicate type of energy.
I like that. One of the things I thought would be fun for us to discuss is talking about salary and pay. So there's this big thing going on about wage transparency. And so is it faux pas for you to share how much money you make? Do you think that those are conversations that coworkers or friends should have with each other? Or is salary something uber private? And what are the larger implications of maybe sharing versus not sharing salaries?
Great question. I feel like I don't want to speak for everybody in Gen Z, but I genuinely feel like everybody in Gen Z like look out for each other. Like whenever I talk to anybody, like we're always like, so how much do you get paid? Oh, well, I get paid this, and that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like I know like from my last job, like we would all talk about like we were getting like full-time offers from our internships, and we would talk about how much money people were getting, and people were totally transparent. They didn't care. They were like, well, I'm getting this much. Okay, well, I'm getting this much. How did you get that much? So I feel like, I don't know, maybe us as a generation, we're a lot more transparent, and I love it. I think it makes us a lot more like, I don't know, it's easy to have those conversations with each other, and that makes it a lot more easier to see, okay, am I getting treated correctly? Am I getting treated properly? Like, that's kind of, I don't know. I feel like we always kind of look out for each other. Like, I don't mind talking to my friends about how much I make. Coworkers is a little bit iffy, but I feel like, honestly, the people that I've interacted with, they've been totally okay with telling me how much they make. I don't know if I feel the same, but like friends, I don't really have much of an issue with. So that type of conversation is good. And I feel like the pros of that is just being able to see, okay, like you're an HR professional too. I'm HR too. How are we making different money? Like what's going on? Like just being able to assess that and see like, okay, like is the company that I'm working at a company that I want to stay at? Like, I feel like that helps. I feel like a con of that maybe just having more of like a kind of like damaged appearance on your current job. It may make you think that you don't value the job that you have. I feel like sometimes when I talk to other people about, you know, the type of money that I'm making and then I hear what they're making, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'm not making that much. Maybe I have a horrible job. So I feel like that's kind of like the cons of being very transparent and being able to talk to your friends or coworkers about, you know, money. But I feel like that's something you can control. Like if you feel like you feel some type of way after hearing somebody's salary, that's something you can control, but that may be a con for some people. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, being silent about your salary is fine as well. Like sometimes I will not participate in a conversation where I feel like, okay, maybe I don't want these people to know how much I make, and that's fine. But I think the transparency is nice, and at least a lot of people my age, like when I'm at work, they don't mind, and I enjoy that. I think that's nice.
I think that's something that is new that's happening, and especially when you think about preventing discrimination and just really thinking about equity and equality in the workforce. Wage transparency is a hot topic, but I would say it has been taboo in the past. Like you just really didn't share how, especially with a coworker.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people aren't mature enough to understand that a part of compensation is, yes, part of the job, but it's also a part of negotiation.
It is. Yeah.
And so if I come in and I'm qualified, or I can speak to or create more value around my skill set to execute a job, and therefore it gets me a higher salary, then sorry for you if it doesn't, you know? And so that's where that transparency can go left.
Right.
But then I think what it also does is it protects and prevents people from being taken advantage of.
Yes.
Because really what we have found that statistically, you know, minorities or women will make different or make a fraction of what maybe white males would make for the same position. And so it's one of those iffy things, but I know my generation, we tend to be a little bit more private about it, especially with coworkers. Now, friends, we may, you know, share a little bit, but it's not something that we talk about a lot. Same thing with debt.
Oh.
Yeah. Our generation, we ain't gonna tell you how much we owe.
My generation,
or student loans is like, mind your business. You don't need to know my student loan amount. Now, if it gets canceled and forgiven, I'll let you know. But we don't really talk about our debt either. So I think that's kind of something that's interesting, or just generationally different as it relates to money.
Which is, I think, is also super interesting, because I'll talk to some of my friends, they're like, oh my God, I'm in so much debt right now. And they'll tell me the exact amount. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, okay, like, that's cool, girl. Like, okay. But I feel like, honestly, when it comes to debt too, I'm like, there's really, like, everybody's kind of, like, if you have a credit card, you're kind of in debt. So it's like, it happens.
Yeah, but I think our generations, like, we know that it's normal. We know we all have bills. We know that we all probably have some form of debt, but it's been, almost beat into your head that you have to be debt free. So to share anything about debt or anything, like, I just think your generation is just more vulnerable. Yeah, you guys are just more vulnerable and have a better ability to admit to flaws and mistakes, and it's something that the rest of us are really catching up to. Like, we're really getting to the place where we can be more vulnerable, and it's okay. But to admit debt, to say your salary, like, those are all like just too vulnerable for our generation, but we're getting there. And I think as leadership is reshaping, we're seeing how important that vulnerability is to connecting with other people. So I'm going to tell your business a little bit, and then you can decide how much deeper we get into this.
Okay.
All right. So you had a very unique experience. One of the things that I talk about in the book, Raising Justice, is I prayed for the opportunity for you to kind of surpass me, or to have different experiences. And so when I think about you graduating at 19, I was contemplating having a child as a sophomore in college, and here you are at 19 graduating college, and you got different job offers. And so you turned down a pretty decent job offer.
Oh no.
Offer to take on a different type of opportunity, and most people would have said go for the money, right? Because it was good money coming out of college. Talk to me about that decision, because I think it says a lot about how you value money, how you value yourself, how you value experiences, and how you value the future.
Wow.
So what are your thoughts around ultimately making that decision? And you can also share the process we kind of went through. The process we went through.
Crazy process. Every day was like, but that's
what we made. What we made it a very logical decision. Like, you looked at it logically, you looked at it futuristically. So like, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, how did I get there? Okay, so I won't give too much detail, but yes, I had a pretty big, like, it was either salary girl job or like more of like an experienced girly and going back home type of job. We could see what choice I made, but it literally was like a week of like literally every day waking up like, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I going to do? Am I gonna choose the money, which I love money, so it was a little bit of like or am I gonna choose like the experience and family? And what I realized through that experience is, as much as I do love money, as much as I do love setting myself up for the future, I feel like I have done enough. And in that situation, I've been living 2 years away from my parents, my family, my brothers. Like, for me, I felt like the best thing for me to do in that moment, also while I was still young, because I was thinking, okay, I'm 19 still. I'm still a baby. I'm not a baby, but I'm still younger. I was thinking I would value more being at home than getting more salary just to be somewhere else away from my family. And that for me was the biggest decider. I was like, I'd rather be home. Like, even if my brother's getting on my nerves and like I feel like I want to go back to Tallahassee and be by myself, I thought in that moment I hadn't been home for 2 years, and I think what was more important to me was being a part of my brother's lives, being back in my family's like good graces, being back in my home, being back in Orlando. For me, that was more important than taking more money. And I don't know what that says about that whole situation. Maybe you guys are like, oh my God, you should have just took the money, which hindsight's 2020. But I think with my current decision, I feel happy because now I get to do a different experience. I get to kind of delve more deeper into something that I never thought I would get into at all. Like, working for the company that I work for now is a completely different experience than what I experienced before. And I also kind of chase experiences. If you know me, I also do that as well. Yeah. Like, I don't stay in one place. I was in Utah, I was in Michigan, now I'm back home. But for me, I like going places. And I felt like if I had chose the option with more money, I would have had to stay there for long. And I didn't know if I was comfortable with that yet. So I feel like, you know, that type of decision, that type of money, in my eyes, will always be there. And I feel like I can always come back to that. I can make it back there. I pray that I can make it back there. I hope God will bring me back to that point.
It'll be double that.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
But I really chose that decision for like social and emotional purposes. And sometimes, maybe this is advice for somebody, but I feel like sometimes you have to choose where your heart is and not where the money is sometimes. Maybe not all the times. But in this case, I feel like it worked out for me. So, yeah.
You know, one of the things I'm proud of as a mom is that you're in a position to make that decision.
Yes, because a lot of people wouldn't be able to see that.
Yeah, because for me, I would have had to go where the money was.
Yeah.
You know, I had 2 kids by the time I graduated college. And so I needed to secure, you know, our financial future.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to take the job that paid the most money, even if it didn't make all the sense. And so I'm just grateful to God that you're in a position to where you get to make a decision on where you want to go. And it doesn't have to be solely on survival, or it doesn't have to be solely on security. You get to say, this what feels right for me, and this is what's going to be best for me going forward. And so I'm going there. So I pray that blessings over everyone that's listening. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in the past couple of years is that all money ain't good money.
That's true.
I've had the 6-figure salary and I walked away from it because it did not feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was proud as a parent for you to be able to look at a lump sum of money, a big opportunity, and say, it's not right for me. And the money will always be there and I'll get it then. And so very proud of you for doing that. And it feels good as a parent to be able to provide the type of security that you can walk away from something like that and know that it'll get back, or you'll get it later. Yeah, you will. Pray. Oh, it'll be double that. And it'll be coming real soon.
Yes.
But I want to wrap up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Next week, we're going to be talking about purpose. We're going to talk about career. We're going to talk about purpose and how do you really kind of lock into that, and what have we done to kind of step into our purpose and career choices and all of that other good stuff. So join us back next Sunday at 5:00 to hear more of our mother-daughter talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, if you have not gotten your Raising Justice book, what are you waiting for? Go on Amazon right now and get your book. Thank you. Have a good night.